everyone, Sandy here. Welcome back to my channel and to week 4 of my Fun Friday remaking this Route 66 album. This is my original album. It's really chunky, kind of full, bowed out some, and I'm trying to remake not necessarily a Route 66 album, but to remake this design into a new album and share it with you so that you can make one too. So when I made this, I really didn't know what I was doing. It was my very first album. And yeah, I'm hoping that I'm doing it better, changing some options and things on it, but still have a real fun album. So can't believe it's already week 4. Of course, it's only the 3rd week on actually work on the album. My first video was going over some of my favorite tools for album making. If you didn't see that, you can check that on my channel here. Make sure that you do subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any videos. Click the bell. Throughout the video, you will notice a little heart down, whoops, we're down here, a little heart symbol. You can click on that, and that gives you the subscribe button option, which is really easy, super easy to do, and I appreciate it so much. And also, if you have a chance, click on like, which is down below near the description of my video. So let's get started on this. This week, we're going to start with making the hinge, and then we'll see how far along we get on that. And perhaps we'll do some base pages. So stay tuned. Before we get started on the hinge for the album that we're remaking, let's go over this one here, this Route 66 one. Now, it had a little bit smaller spine, so I enlarged that to make this easier, because you see it has a little bit of a bow here. You may not see it there. You can see it right there because I put so much stuff in it. But anyway, I'm still going to have 5 pages in my new album. And in this one, the difference was I made it so that each page had its own hinge, and then they attached together. And with the weight of the pages and all that I put in it, it wasn't working really well. I had to go in here with some gaffer's tape and mend in between on some of these hinges because they were coming apart. And I don't want that to happen on my new one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a hinge using Caroline's floating gusseted hinge that she shows in a couple of her videos. I will put up above the link to her videos so you might understand her explanation more. I did resize it for mine. In her album that I followed, video that I followed, it was for, I believe, a 3-inch spine. Mine is going to be a 4. So I did adjust it, changed the scoring and the length of the paper a little bit. I've already scored mine, but I'm going to show you again how to score it. So don't feel like I'm neglecting you on that. I'll give you the measurements and we'll score it. But anyway, here on my new album, we have a 4-inch spine, and we're going to put that floating hinge in there. I think it'll accommodate the bigger pages better. So you're going to cut 2 pieces of cardstock. You need one that is 6.5 by 11.5 and one that is 6.5 by 8.5. We're going to take the 11.5 inch long one. We're going to put 11.5 at the top, and you're going to start off with a 1/2 inch score line. Carolyn does 3/8 on hers to accommodate the smaller hinge. So 1/2 inch, then you're going to score every 3/4 of an inch because we're going to have 3/4 inch hinges to accommodate these bigger pages with 3/4 inch space in between to give us more space for the thicker pockets and elements. So your first score is a 1/2 inch, then you're going to score at 1 1/4, 2, 2 3/4, 3 1/2, 4 1/4, 5, 5 3/4, 6 1/2, 7 1/4, 8, 8 3/4, 9 1/2, 10 1/4, and your last score is at 11, which, if you look at it, you see you have a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch, and everything in between is 3/4 inches apart. Okay? Then turn it over to the back side, we're going to score where each tab is going to be made for the hinge. So that would be your 1 1/4, your 3 1/2, your 5 3/4, your 8, and your 10 1/4. That's just going to help fold that the way we want it to go. You take your other piece, your 6 1/2 by 8 1/2, put the 8 1/2 in at the top. You're going to score at 2, 2 1/8, and 2 1/4. It's easier for me if I just flip it all the way around. Still have 8 1/2 at the top. Score again 2, 2 1/8, and 2 1/4. Once these are already scored, they're hard to follow again. Okay, so we have those two pieces ready to go, and we can put up the scoreboard and get ready to put the hinge piece together. Now we're going to fold and burnish with our bone folder the score lines for the hinge, and I'm going to use glue to put this together. So you have your 2 here on the ends, your little 1/2 inch ones. So I'm just going to fold these under or towards each other here on this side. This is the side we originally scored them on. So I'm going to fold and burnish those, okay? Now then, the next one is actually going to be, and these you don't glue down, they're just burnished. You can burnish them either, I like to do them both ways to kind of get them used to folding until we're ready to attach them to our other piece. But anyway, turn this over so this is the back side where you scored your hinge piece again. You can kind of see you've got a mountain right there. You can actually see it going into that shape right there. So I'm going to turn this over. Those are the ones that we're going to glue together. So in just one of the 3/4 inch, the first one here next to the 1/2 inch, we're going to put glue. And you're going to fold that into the other 3/4 space, and we're going to burnish. Burnish it really good, flatten that out, push out any glue that you might have. It's going to really flatten that into a piece. So this one you fold back on that. So we see we have that, and you have your hinge piece right there. So there's that one. We're going to skip. And again, on this back side where we scored that hinge one, we scored it on the front and the back. No glue in this one, but glue in the next 3/4. I know hinges can be so confusing for some people, and it did take practice to learn how they go together. And once you've done some, it'll be really simple. So fold the glued one back onto the other 3/4 inch and really burnish that. Okay, burnish it, burnish, push the glue out. Okay, that score line there that you see, we're going to fold it back on itself, and we're going to burnish. So now when we flip this over, we have 2 hinges, because we're going to burnish these lines, fold line. We have 2 hinges that stick up. We have one space in here, and we have this little 1/2 inch flap sticking out, just like that, okay? Turn it back over, and if it looks like your glue hasn't stuck down good, flip it back and really burnish it and give it a chance to dry. I could see that mine needed to dry more. Okay, just give it a chance to dry in there. So there we go. All right, let's flip it back over. So you have this 3/4 that you're going to leave alone. You can see your score line of the one that's going to form another hinge. So glue, you skip 3/4 space and glue in the next one. Now pay attention here. You want to make sure that you're attaching the glued one to the one on this side, not the one toward the hinges you've just made. So fold this over, burnish it, push all that glue out, burnish it, and give it a chance to really dry. Where this score line is, I'm going to fold it back and burnish. Now, yes, you can, and I think Caroline does, burnish all your lines before you do your gluing. And sometimes that could be easier for you. I like to keep track of it this way for some reason on what I have glued and what I don't. Now we have 3. See that? We have 3. We turn it over. It looks like this. So this one, no glue. And sometimes you can put an X where you're going to put your glue. That way you don't make a mistake. So we have the one we glued, one that has no glue, and then the next one has glue. And it's the one that has the score line on the back side that's going the other direction. See it right here? So glue this to the one away from the others that you've already made and burnish. Push that glue out. Really get that burnished in there. Give it a chance to dry. And then I'm going to fold this back. Burnish it. The other way. And now when I open this up, I have 4 hinges with my space in between. Okay, so we have one more set to put together. Let's turn it back over. So here's the hinges right here on my left. This space stays a space. Glue on the next 3/4 space. You see that score line that's going down? So I'm just going to bring it over towards the one I put the glue on and burnish it. Burnish it really well. Get the glue out. See some down here. I just clean it off and wipe it off my table. I'm always having to clean my table. Burnish, burnish. This 1/2 inch one I'm going to fold back and burnish. And then this one here, I'm going to fold along the lines and burnish. Now we've got them all glued. We have 5 hinges. Bring it up so you can see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 hinges, 2 1/2 inch spaces. Now, take this, fold each hinge into the gusset space and really burnish it. And you can see, once you burnish it really well, that it fits right in that space of the gusset. No overlapping. It's real important that we get it all burnished really well along those score lines so that it fits in that area. I'm going to come back the other way because I want these to be able to turn side to side, from one side to the other. So burnish that in there. Here, the last couple of them. Really burnish it in so that you can see your hinges are nice and flat and they turn easily both directions. So that's real important. So we have the hinge. Okay, so when you fold this back and this back, this space in here should fit into the book. So let me grab the book. So you open up those wings and you're going to look at it. and they should fit right in there. Now, sometimes with your burnishing and scoring, it's going to make that stick out a little bit. And if it does, because you don't want this to go into that fold here, it's going to make it bow. So I'm going to trim off just a tiny bit on each edge to make this fit into my spine without any overlapping on the sides. Okay, so I trimmed just the teeniest bit off just that little 1/2 inch piece there. Make sure that's straight there. Okay, on each side to make this fit in between that area right there. And it does now. So now we're ready to make our other piece. It's going to, now, if you don't want the floating hinge, this would fit. You could glue this whole thing down into your album and you'd be done. It'd be a fixed hinge, but I'm going to make it a floating one because it helps those pages to move and lay down a little bit flatter. I've done one album with this hinge and I really, really liked it. So if you haven't done it before, I highly recommend it. Now then, for this, you're going to have to play with your score lines because you've got 2 little bitty 1/8 of an inch gussets here. So I just kind of burnish it and then play with each one. I fold the ones on each side, not the one in the middle. This I found the trickiest in this method. You've got to fold the 2 outer lines the same direction. And then your center one has got to go back inside on itself, back in. So you have like a little accordion, but very small. So I'm going to get these outer ones scored first. So I'm scoring it so these 2 flaps go like this. And then the other one goes out the same way. So you see I've got them both scored the same way to give me a 1/4 inch thingy here. See that? Now that center line has got to go the other direction. So Carolyn shows pushing here with your bone folder and pushing in on that line and then pushing this one forward to get that started. See there? Then I can kind of pinch those together right there. So I've got those 2 together and I'm holding them down. I'm just going to follow that line with the edge of my bone folder or your fingernail and continue pushing it in on itself. So what we have is those 2 outer lines match and we have 1 line going in. So just keep pushing it. And it will go. It just takes a little bit of time. There we go. And then you burnish those outer ones down. So there you go. So you see it here. See how that one goes in? If you open it up, you've got one standing up like a ridge. So I'm going to do the other side, and then we'll put this on our hinge. And then these 2 in here, these like 2 doors should meet each other. Okay, so I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so once we have our piece looking like this, see how they meet? We've got the little accordion gusset here on the side. We're going to turn it over. We're going to open it up so that these fold under. So you do it like this, open it up. And now we're going to glue this hinge piece right here in the center on this side here. So I'm going to turn these over and hold it with my fingers. And I'll make sure and put glue on each section. Right in here, I'm going to go across this part here and make sure your glue is on your 1/2 inch as well. All of these along the edge. Good amount of glue. You want each individual one gluing down. And the little 1/2-inch wings. Get the glue too. Okay. So once we have the glue on there, we're going to take this, we're going to line this up, and it should exactly fit side to side and top to bottom. Clean off that glue within this section here. Make sure it's staying in at the top. Line it up here. So you don't want it over the little gusset. You want it lined up alongside in this part. Make sure it lines up right in there. Okay. So once that's on there the way you want it, nice and straight across the top and the bottom and along the sides, not in the gussets, so that when you fold these under, your hinge piece is there. Okay. And I can see that this one kind of sticks out a little bit. I'm going to trim that off just to be safe. So I'm going to go along between each one and burnish. And my bone folder just exactly fits in those 3/4 inch spaces right there. And this one's here on the 1/2. So burnish those. We want sure it's stuck down. I'm going to turn this one over, and I can see where this one is sticking out. So I didn't get it probably trimmed quite straight. And I'm just going to straighten that up so that it doesn't hinder anything. So this one's fine. So we open it up. There's our hinge. This is where it's going to go into the spine, and this is going to give us our floating hinge right here. Okay. So now we're ready to put it into the book. Because I made my hinge to be 6.5 and the album is actually 7, I want this to be finished top and bottom, but I want it to be smooth. I want it all level. So I did cut a piece of pattern paper that is just a 1/16 under 4 inches and a 1/16 under 7. And I'm going to glue that into my spine section now before I attach the hinge. So go ahead and get glue on this entire piece. Now, if you want to use score tape sheet, you could. It's not necessary. I don't think glue will hold this just fine because this is not going to go over any of the fold area. So get the glue on here, and I'm just going to line this up between the folds and just almost to each top and bottom right here of our edge of our album right there. Make sure it's straight. Burnish that. Clean out any glue that you might get in that fold. You don't want it to glue shut or anything. So I'm just going to clean that up. I'll let that dry before I close my book up. Just clean that out. Okay. Burnish that down. Burnish this. So now our spine area is finished, but you're not going to see any of it except a 1/4 inch at the top and a 1/4 inch at the bottom, because that's where this is going to fit right in there. Okay. So I'm going to get ready to glue this down. I'm just checking this to make sure I don't need to trim some more off. So I think I kind of got it off. I'm going to bend that down. Don't want anything hindering that. So just trimmed a tiny bit off. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, we turn this over, and on the back side of our wing, we're going to put glue on this whole back section. So along the sides, about a 1/16 from the edge, I would say. And then we do the whole thing solid with glue. This is going to really anchor this in. Okay. Now we want to put this in so that it goes along this edge but not over the fold, and you want it 1/4 of an inch from the top and from the bottom. So I'm just sliding it till I get to where it's supposed to be. A little bit. Sometimes you have to turn it sideways to see. And it's just this one that's going down, so I can lift this up and I can look to make sure that it's straight and burnish that in. This piece right in here. Okay. Then when it folds down, we're going to put glue on that other side, and it's going to butt right up to that other one and keep it straight in there. So now we put the glue on this one. Fold it down. You're going to make sure that it slides in and touches the other flap, and it goes in nice and straight. This is going to fold up. It's going to fold up. And then I'm going to kind of reach down through here and burnish because I can't quite go all the way. I can go as far as I can, though, and burnish it about halfway, so I can from top and bottom, and burnish that in. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry really good. And our hinge is in our book, and it's got kind of moves, and it's going to turn real nice to the right and the left for our pages. Once we get those all done, and we have 5, we're going to do 5 pages. So I'm going to look at the video, see how much time I have. I think we might have time to make our base pages this week, and then next week we'll be ready to start decorating on the first one. Okay, I think for week 4 we do have time to assemble our base pages. We're not going to put anything into the album, but we're going to get the base part done. I'm going to give you the measurements, and I'll show you how to do one, and then between now and next week you can get all the base pages made, and then on week 5 we'll start adding all the different elements like flips, flaps, and pockets. So this is the one we're working on. We've got our hinge in. We're ready to go with the base pages. Set this one aside. This is the original album. So what I'm going to do after I make our base pages, I'm going to start making elements and adding pattern paper from the back. So we'll do each page from the back forward, because I like to do them and then put them in the book. And I'm basically going to follow the same design, I think, except in places where that one's okay. The pockets are kind of narrow. I'm going to widen those because my elements tend to fall out. So that will be starting in week 5, but today we're going to go ahead and we're going to make base pages. Now this is really basic. If you've been making mini albums or making your own albums, you've probably done this before. So for the base page, we have 5 pieces that are 9 by 7.5. We're going to score the 7.5 inch side. So put that in at the top, 7.5 here. We're going to score at a 1/2 inch. Oops, 1/2 inch score and 7. Okay, so you're going to do that on all 5. I'm just showing you on one. So fold on your score line and burnish. Burnish that really well. Now I'm going to take one of my pieces that is 6.5 by 9. That's the size of the page. And I'm just going to dry fit it and see, hopefully, if I cut it out right. So if not, you have it off a little bit. It will be covered by patterned paper. You can still use it, but we're going to do one side at a time. So with your hinge laying like this, put your glue all along this one of your 1/2 inch tabs here. We're going to take the 6.5 by 9. I'm going to open this up, and we're going to place this right up against the fold like this. Now make sure it's lining up here on the top and the bottom. Then go ahead and burnish that. Clean off any glue that may come out. Press it out. There we go, right there. Got a lot. Okay. Flip it over, and I'm going to burnish the inside. Okay, so that's the inside. So now we have our hinge here. And I'm just going to fold it over, make sure that it fits. Okay, let's put the glue on that one. This time we're going to bring this over. We're going to line it up right along the edge of the fold. It should lay down pretty straight. Make sure it's straight down here on the bottom and at the top. Okay, and then burnish. This one just a little bit off. I'm going to move it some. Don't want it extending any. I want it to right on that edge. Okay, and then burnish. So that's why I like to use glue, because it gives me just a little bit of wiggle room to get those pages even right here on the side. So that's your base page. What it is a sleeve. And this is going to go over the hinge, and this will be left open so that you can put photo mats or add other elements to it. So go ahead and do that on all 5, and you will have them ready for week 5 when we come back and we start working on our pages. So that is all for this week. Thank you so much for following along as we remake my Route 66 album, except we're making it into a Homer's Diner paper collection from Country Craft Creations. So be sure and check out Country Craft Creations for your crafting supplies at countrycraftcreations.com, and subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.